My name is Jeb Penny, and I'm an advisor with the Kentucky Public Service Commission, and I'll be giving a little presentation today on the exhaustion of the 502 area code and the options that have been presented to the Public Service Commission. This will be available, this presentation is available on our website as well as the video from this meeting, and that you can find it at psc.ky.gov. So, little brief thing, what is the PSC? Well, it's the agency that primarily regulates most utilities in the state except those that are owned by cities and power companies that purchase power from the TVA and a few other things. And we have light regulation on telephone companies, especially when it comes to phone numbers, at least for area codes. So it's a total of about 1,100 utilities that the commission oversees, anything from types of, complaints about service or rates. Utility wants to raise their rates, they have to come in for the Public Service Commission. So why are we here? Well, back in October, this outfit called the North American Numbering Plan Administrator, and as many times as I've said it, I still have to look over my shoulder to read it out, called the NAMPA, which is the third-party administrator for phone numbers in most of North America. And it's done so under contract from the Federal Communications Commission. Notify the commission through the filing of an application that the 502 area code was set to run out of numbers by the end of the third quarter of 2027. So the NAMPA likes to have a long lead time in notifying the local regulatory commissions about this so that the commissions can look at the different options that are presented to them, make a decision, and allow a lot of time for the telephone companies to make the changes to their networks that are necessary, as well as to engage in customer education. So after a few meetings between the NAMPA and telephone companies and commission staff, I was one of those staff on there, the NAMPA filed their application. Like I said, you can find it under docket 24333 at psc.ky.gov. And they presented 5 separate alternatives to the Public Service Commission to consider to alleviate the upcoming exhaustion of the 502 area code. So here we are with the current area code by map in Kentucky. Yellow is the 502, orange is the 859, green is the 606, and the blue is actually 270, and it should say /364, because when the 270 phone numbers exhaust in there, they will have 364 numbers. And here's the current 502 area code. You can see it a little bit better here. And it more or less follows county lines, but not exactly. You can see kind of down here, parts of Hardin County are caught in it, but most of it's not like that. So it's not a perfect fit for county lines. So the first option that was presented, and this is the preferred option, is what is called an all services distributed overlay of the 502 with a new area code. So what this means is that you still retain the same geography of the current 502 area code, and then when all the 502 numbers are finally distributed, numbers are finite when you have 502, you have a certain number of numbers, the next number assigned will have a new area code. All right? If you have a 502, you get to keep that phone number, but the next new phones, the next numbers that will be assigned, somebody moves here, somebody turns 16, well, probably 12, 10, get their new phone, they would have a different area code. Now, one of the changes that would have to be necessary, though, when you go to an overlay like this is what we just generally call an overlay, is that 10-digit dialing becomes mandatory, meaning that within the 502 area code, if you want to call another phone number, you would have to now dial 502, even if it's your neighbor. Now, if you have a smartphone, I see one right there because I know it's on your calendar, it automatically saves all your phone numbers as 10-digit dialing.
I have to do it anyway because I get my North Carolina number.
There you go, yeah. So you'd have to do that anyway. But even if you had a 502 smartphone, it would automatically save all your phone numbers with that 10-digit dialing. But if you have a landline, you'd have to make sure that you dial 502 within that 502 area code. And this, like I said, is the preferred option from almost all the telephone companies that were part of the pre-filing conference we had. Only one wanted a different option. We'll get to that option in a second. But this is also the same solution. Remember a few slides back I said the 270 should actually be 270/364. This is the option that the commission implemented in 2014 for the 270 area code. So what that means, 270, and I don't even know they've started to assign 364 in Western Kentucky, but as soon as those 270 run out, 364 will be the next. Now, the reason why, the reason why this is the recommended option is that it manages to impact fewer customers than the other alternatives because there's no change in boundaries. All you have to do is remember to do 10-digit dialing, right? And then you get, if you get a subsequent number when 502s run out, you have a new area code. It's easier on the telecommunications providers to make these changes as well. And I think over experience with the telephone companies, they think this minimizes customer confusion, and especially when we get to some of the other options, it makes it a lot easier for the telephone companies and the Public Service Commission to explain the options, the alternatives, not the alternatives, sorry, what the commission chooses to do for it. With an overlay, the projected exhaust date would be somewhere around 2057. The second option is a geographic split. So in this, the NAMPA, and we'll get to the map next, has split the 502 area code. One portion, not to be determined right now, but to be determined later, would keep the 502, and the other portion would get a new area code. So if you retain the 502, you retain your 502 number, and you still maintain 7-digit dialing within that area code. If you're in a portion that gets the portion of the split that gets the new area code, you lose your 502, get your new phone number, but you still retain 7-digit dialing within that area code. But if you wanted to call the 502 area code, you still have to do 10-digit dialing. So way back in the day, Kentucky had one area code, it's 502. It split in 1955 to 502 and 606. Somewhere, I think it was 1998, the 502 started to run out, and so there was a split, 270, 502. And then in 1999 and starting in 2000, the 606 was running out, so there was a split, 859 and 606. I know we're up here on the river, but if you know anybody from the 606, they really like their area code. All right, they really do. And so I think the people in Kentucky were pleased that they got to keep it. But back in the day, those geographic splits did cause a lot of consternation because if you were on, I guess what people would term the losing side, you would have to get a new area code and you wouldn't have your old one. But the last time a state ordered a geographic split was in 2007. That was in New Mexico. And because what happened in about 2008 was the introduction of the iPhone. And all of a sudden, smartphones started to take over very rapidly. And one of the things that occurred with that was that automatic 10-digit dialing. And so when the commission was faced with the decision in the 270 area code case, it chose the overlay. And that's been the preferred option for most places. Anyway, here is the proposed map from the NAMPA of who would have the split. So you can see the line basically follows the counties along the river for one side, and the rest of them is the remaining part. So like I said, we don't know who would keep 502 and who would get the new area code. The commission would have to make that determination if this is the option the commission chooses. So the third option that was presented to the commission would be to eliminate the boundary between the 502 area code and the 270 and 364 area code. So the first thing you would have to do is it would require 10-digit dialing. It also would mean that you would continue to get a 502 number assigned to you if you're in the 502, or because there's a boundary elimination, you could ask for a 270 or 364. But as soon as the 270s run out, then a 364 or 502 will be assigned. As soon as the 502s runs out, everybody within that area gets a 364. Now this would put it all the way out to an exhaust date of 2044, but currently 270 has an exhaust date of 2080. That's what the resulting area would look like. That's a merging of the 270, 364, and the 502. So that was option number 3. Option number 4 and 5 rhyme a lot. They're very close to each other. Option 4 would eliminate boundaries between all the area codes in Kentucky. So what that would mean is that automatic 10-digit dialing in all of Kentucky. Currently, 10-digit dialing is mandatory in the 270 and in the 859. So this means mandatory dialing for those in the 606 and 502. So, but what you do here is that if you eliminate all the boundaries, you would no longer depend, where you are would no longer depend on the area code that you get. If you're in the 502, you could ask for a 606, or an 859, or a 270, or a 364. The problem is with this option is that the exhaust date is really only 14 years after implementation. And the NAMPA rules require that any relief plan provide relief for 15 years or more. So they presented us with option 5, which is to do the exact same thing, eliminate all the boundaries, but then also have a new area code waiting at the same time when those are all exhausted. So that would give us, let's see, I can't remember the exact date. It would decrease the projected life of the 859 by 2 years and decrease the 270-364 by 37 years, but it would stretch out the 606 for a few years from the current exhaustion dates. So those are the 5 options, and so what's next? We have one more public meeting. That's tomorrow in Frankfurt. After which, the commission will take a look at the record, review the public comments that have been made, either filed or made at our public hearings. And the NAMPA has requested a final order no later than July 31st of 2025. That order will make the decision of which alternative to adopt. And then after that, different timelines would apply. So, for example, if the commission goes for the preferred option, the overlay, there's a 13-month implementation period. The first 6 months would be primarily for the telecommunications providers to make the necessary changes in translations to implement the overlay. For the next 6 months, after that first 6 months, you would have permissive 10-digit dialing, meaning if you could still dial 7 digits within the 502 and it would complete a phone number. Or you could dial 10-digit dialing and you could still complete the phone call. During all this period of time, there would be public service announcements and public education, flyers in your bills so people still get bills, emails, commercials from the commission, as well as from the telecommunications providers. So at the end of 12 months, mandatory 10-digit dialing would go into effect, and by the end of the 13th month, the 502 would be ready for the new area code. It would be assigned, or picked out by NAMPA. They'll give us the new area code if this is what is chosen. And then after that 13-month implementation period, when the 502 numbers are exhausted, the next number to be issued will be the one with the new area code. Now, if the commission goes for a geographic split, it would be about a 15-month implementation period of time. And for all the other overlay options, it'd be roughly around this 13-month period of time. So that's about it. Here's my contact information if you have anything. So we have opportunity for you all to make public comment, if you would come up here to get it on the mic so we hear you, or I can even just answer questions if you have any of them as well.
I like the overlay
Okay.
because my mother's 93, and if they do the split, I mean, change doesn't happen quickly at that age.
Yeah. So,
The public comments we have received have been, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I know, I did have a question. On the 10-digit overlay, if you're calling, for some reason you have to call from your landline, if you're calling within when does it become long distance?
It would still be considered a local call within that calling area. It just, you'd have to dial 502. It'd be rated as a local call.
So, yeah, that's what I wanted to check.
Yeah. If nothing changes on that, because that you can even have a long distance call within an area code sometimes, depending upon the distance of it all. But that won't change. Like, you call your neighbor, if you both have landlines and you dial a 502 to call them, it will not be rated as a long distance call. So. And I will say that I think, and I'm looking to my colleagues for confirmation, but of all the public meetings we've had, everybody has been in favor of the overlay, except for one gentleman in the Louisville office, and I think his wife wanted the overlay, but he wanted the geographic split, but only as long as he got to keep his 502. So anyway, well, I appreciate your input on that. I appreciate you all coming out. Are there any other questions you have for us? All right, that's it. Well, thank you very much. Be careful on the way out of here. I think rain's heading in. I don't know if it's gotten here yet.